Welcome back to the Flow Performance Podcast. My name is Ricky Dan, founder of Flow Nutrition and your host. On today's episode, we chat with one of Surfing Australia's strength and conditioning coaches, Cohen Crispin. Cohen is a level 2 professional S&C coach and exercise scientist who has previously worked in the NRL, including as a sports scientist for the Queensland Maroons, and is currently working at Surfing Australia with a variety of athletes from state level right through to the championship tour. Cohen's knowledge around physical preparation is incredibly valuable for anyone wanting to implement an evidence-based approach to their training. And I am super grateful for the opportunity to pick his brains and share some of his wisdom with you all. In today's episode, Cohen answers the question, what's the go with warm-ups? We discuss the primary goal of a warm-up, the benefits it can have on performance and injury prevention, how to structure a warm-up for any type of session, and actual examples of exercises and stretches that you can use in your own. If you find it valuable and want to support the podcast, make sure you jump on the website and grab some of our Flow nutritional bars. They are the most effective and convenient way to fuel your flow state. Our Flow Energy Bar is the best way to fuel before and during exercise, while our recovery bars nail the basics for post-exercise recovery. And just for listening to this podcast, you can get 10% off your total order with the code FLOWPOD at checkout. Now, there is so much value in today's chat, so let's get stuck into it. What's the go with warm-ups with Surfing Australia's strength and conditioning coach, Cohen Crispin. Alrighty, welcome back to the Flow Performance Podcast. My name is Ricky Dan, founder of Flow Nutrition. Today I'm back in Currumbin with one of Surfing Australia's strength and conditioning coaches, Cohen Crispin. Mate, it's always a pleasure.
Good to have you back.
Thanks, mate. So, we are going to dive straight into today's training-related question, which is, what's the go with warm-ups? Now, I'll be completely honest, when the surf's pumping, I'm probably one of the first people that just skips the warm-up down on the beach. I just have to jump straight out there. But when it comes to gym training or running or like other exercises, for some reason, I never miss a warm-up. I'm very disciplined with that. So obviously there's different types of warm-ups that we can do for different occasions or different sessions. I guess my first question will probably be, what are the general primary goals that we want from a warm-up?
Yeah, well, I guess the reason we're doing a warm-up, is we want a performance gain. So if we think of this from a competitive sort of element, we want athletes to be prepared to go out and have the greatest scoring opportunity. If we think that from, your local surfer, we want them to be able to get out there and, get the wave of their life out at Kira or out at Snapper and not sort of miss the wave because, one, they sort of didn't have the ankle or hip range because they weren't warm to, make the drop. So, yeah, performance gains. When I think about sort of building out a warm-up, I go back to one of the basics of warm-ups. So I don't know if you've heard of it, the ramp warm-up. So it's an acronym for, raise, activate, mobilize, and potentiate. So for me, that ticks a lot of the goals around getting a performance outcome, preparing an athlete to be ready for the event they're going into, prepared for, that day of surfing. So when we think of our raise, we want to increase our body temperature. We want to get the heart rate up, prepare the cardiovascular system for what it's about to, the demands that's going to be put under it. Activate, some of the key muscles that are going to be associated with maybe, injury mitigation or performance. So we'd be thinking around the shoulders, around the hips, the core, mobilizing. We've talked about this before around ankles, hips, and thoracic being really important. Easy to see why that's important in surfing. Can you extend through the thoracic? Can you get nice and low through the hips and in a deep ankle range, especially if you're trying to get in sort of that deep barrel position? When we go to the potentiate, it's a fancy word for let's, fire the system up. Let's do some power work. So when I'm trying to build that out, I'm trying to think about, what are we going to be doing on this day? So if you're in that elite space, are you focusing on some full rotes for the day? Are you doing some airs? So let's try and build those demands into it. So instead of just doing a counter movement jump or a squat jump, let's add a rotational element to it. So start to prepare those joints for the rotational forces that they're going to be, required to handle. Ankle injuries, quite common in surfing. So, some ankle-based jumps, hopping, multiple direction, pogo jumps, preparing for the body for what it's about to and what it's about to happen in the event, the surf. So ensuring we're getting that performance outcome, but we're ready for anything sort of coming our way.
Yeah, so you got your two aspects there, performance and injury sort of prevention. And I guess in a gym setting, you don't really often think about that, do you? But you want to perform your best even in the gym when you're training, right? So that makes complete sense.
For sure. Like when you think of the gym, you're doing the same things. You're thinking of the demands of the session. So if you're going to be doing some squats and you know you struggle to get in a deep range because your hips are tight or your ankles are tight, you'll see everyone in the gym, they're doing some foam rolling, they're rolling the calves out, they're rolling the hips out. They maybe don't know that they're preparing for the demands of that session, but they do to a degree because, they want to get a new PB on the squat. So they're going through the things that are going to make them fault and miss the lift.
I feel like at the moment, am going to a commercial gym, which I haven't in a very long time, but I swear some people warm up for like an hour and then do a 20-minute gym session. What's your sort of go-to duration for someone who, let's say the average person wants to invest an hour a day in the gym? How long should a warm-up go for?
I think if you've got an hour, you're going to be maxing your warm-up out at 10 minutes. You can get a lot done in 5 minutes. So like if you imagine if you went into the gym and you're doing a full body session, you did 10 to 15 squats, you did 10 to 15 lunges, you did 10 to 15 push-ups, you did some rows. You've accumulated quite a few repetitions there. Your heart rate's up. You've activated the muscles. You've taken it through the joints to the ranges they're going to be done. You might be thinking, okay, let's add a little bit of power here. We might do some jumps. What's that taken? 2 or 3 minutes, and it's probably a lot of bang for buck there. You've got a lot done in that sort of 5-minute period. All right, so let's add some sort of focused mobility work there, and you're sort of ready to go for your session. So, if we're thinking the sporting context, we got elite athletes that are getting above 30 years old. How demanding sport is, they're probably a little bit broken. They might have the time to spend 20, 30 minutes warming up, but for everyday people, they don't. So how we utilize that 5 minutes, we don't waste any time, I think is really important.
Love that. I guess it's very socially accepted, obviously, to warm up in a gym. But when you're down on the sand, I don't want to end up on Kook of the Day. How can we do a warm-up that is somewhat quick, subtle, and if it's pumping, you're actually going to do it? Like, what are some exercises that we can do down on the beach? Maybe you mentioned dynamic stretches as part of that. What are some actual things that you would use with a surfer before they head out?
Yeah, so like I come back to that ramp warm-up. So for me, that acronym can be shifted around a lot. So if you've got a 2-minute paddle out to the local spot, maybe that R is at the end because you're going to get the heart rate up there. The activation, it's going to come through some of our compound movements. Get them doing a few squats, a few lunges, add some rotation in there. Mobility, you might not want to get sandy. So it's like, how do we build that in? So some of our thread the needles when we're sort of down in that lunge position and opening up. Now, the thing I always sort of tell people that really struggle with it, they're worried about being on Kook of the Day, is what do you do before you leave home that morning? So, you're having your breakfast, you're having your coffee. Do your warm up before you get in the car. If you feel embarrassed, you don't want to be doing it in the car park or the beach because of that sort of judgment, do it at home. Just because you got a 10, 20-minute drive, you're still going to get some performance gains from doing your warm up, getting your range, getting your activation done, and then, you paddle out, you get your heart rate up. So
that's so interesting. I've actually never thought about that, like how early you can warm up and how long that your body, quote unquote, stays warm. So you reckon 10 minutes would be, if you did your warm up at home, you drive down to the beach, that's still essentially done. You can jump in.
In everything, there's optimal, but what are you going to adhere to? So if you think of yourself and you're like, I'm never going to warm up down the beach, but I feel pretty comfortable doing this at home. I've got everything that I would normally use at a gym session. You're going to be more regular with that. We're going to get a performance gain there just from consistency and being adherent to a warm up.
Love that. Because at the moment, my sort of mindset around a surfing warm-up is usually, I always try and like run down to the sand, whether I park the car somewhere, there's a bit of a hike through the bush or something. Like I always try and just put a little jog on to get down to the beach. And then I just do like body weight squats, like maybe one set of 6, just 6 body weight squats, couple little leg swings with the board. But you're right though. Like if I was going to go surf crowded snapper and you walk down to the rock there, there's no way I'm doing thread the needle in front of all these other guys going out. You have Mick behind you, and
exactly.
you're about to walk out, and then just kooky first wave. It's like, oh. But no, that's good. I like that. Do it at home. I don't know why I've never even thought of that.
Yeah, it's a simple one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's just how you usually warm up. So if you grew up going to the gym, you wouldn't do your warm up before you went to the gym. You get there, you do it. So
yeah, just have it.
Yeah, but yeah, you're not going to be doing that down at Snapper. But you want to give you the best opportunity to get that lifetime wave at Snapper.
Yeah.
So get it done at home.
Absolutely. And what about those days when, like, during the winter, you're sitting out there so often, if I don't catch a wave for, even 20 to 30 minutes sometimes, you're sitting there shivering. Is that warm-up then sort of wasted, or are there ways that while you're sitting out there in the lineup, you can stay warm, probably particularly like your upper body? Are there any exercises you sort of tell surfers they can do while they're out there?
I guess for your competitive surfers, if you've ever seen them in the lineup, they're not sitting still for too long. They're hunting for that wave. They're hunting for the next thing. So they're staying quite warm. And, if you've got the capacity to do that, you've done your strength training for the week, you've done your conditioning, you've got the capacity to have a really high quality surf. There's probably not that special exercise in the water, but I just recommend, keep paddling around, keep hunting for the position, try and get a little bit further up the line to that spot where the wave's breaking, because, that's the way you're going to stay warm.
Yeah, absolutely. Last thing I want to touch on here, and this is sort of derived from, I've been doing a lot of teaching at Griffith, particularly in S&C subjects, and such a simple concept is often very misunderstood, and it's when it comes to stretching and our two different types, so dynamic and static. Firstly, what stretches should we be doing prior versus our cool down, and then what sort of purpose are they sort of serving?
Yeah, so before a session, we want to be doing things that are dynamic in nature. We want to be focusing on the joints that are really important. So we think thoracic, hips, ankles. So, might be getting in a side lying position, opening up the thoracic, ensuring the hip staying pinned. It could be our thread the needle, which combines thoracic mobility, hip mobility, ankle mobility. Could be, the classic 90-90s where we're shifting our hips over, and then just some ankle rocks. Things like that before a surf that prepare the body for the demands, really important. Post-session, I'm going to lend myself more to static stretching, lengthen that muscle. So what are the areas that we're struggling with? Anyone that's been out for a point session that's done a heap of paddling, they can feel how tight the lats are. They can feel the restriction through their thoracic, through their neck. So let's try and open up the lats. Let's make sure we got good range around the hips. So it could just be stretching the hip flexors, the hammies, the glutes, all directions. Make sure we're opening up. Yeah. So
yeah, I like that. There just seems like so much that we can do. If we go back to sort of nailing the basics, would you just suggest maybe targeting one or two stretches on just going through the joints? So ankle, knee, hip, thoracic, and shoulders? Maybe like one or two for each of those. Is that enough?
Absolutely. Yeah. Get 10 reps done, each joint. You're going to feel a lot better. Now, if you've got an injury history, you suffer from sort of neck pain, and you've seen a physio, and maybe we think that's due to a lack of thoracic mobility. So you might spend a bit more time on that area because it's going to get you more benefit. So it's about nailing the basics, but then individualizing it enough to really work for that person.
Yeah, and even day to day as well. Like you sort of feel what your body needs sometimes. You just go, oh shit, I'm a bit tight in here, and you just want to work that a little more, and being open to sort of being flexible enough to change that routine based off how you're feeling on the day to day.
100%. And like for the everyday surfer, if you're an office worker, you're probably going to be a little bit tighter through the hips because you're sitting all day. If you're a construction worker, you're a brickie and you're bent over all day, you're going to be tight through the upper back, the lower back. So, how do we individualize that? It's really important.
Yeah, or if your lower back's really sore because you've just been tucking into barrels all day like me at Kira most days. Yeah, no, I feel that.
Good problem to have.
That's the biggest joke I've ever made. Well, mate, that is a great overview of warm-up, so I really appreciate your insights there. So thank you very much again. If anyone does have any questions, don't hesitate to shoot us a message at Flow Nutrition, or you can hit Cohen up directly at Coach_Cohen Crispin on Instagram. And yeah, check out his awesome content on there. He's got some great resources as well, so make sure you head over there. But yeah, thanks again, everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you again next week for another episode. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Flow Performance Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the chat and found loads of value that you can use to fuel your flow state. If you did enjoy the content and want to support the brand, make sure you jump on the website and grab some Flow nutritional bars. They are the most effective and convenient way to fuel your flow state. And as a valued podcast listener, you can get 10% off your total order with the code FLOWPOD at checkout. So thanks again for tuning in. We will catch you again next week.